Deion Sanders has a pretty clear message for players thinking about leaving Colorado.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. Like I said, I'm Kevin Borba. This is Locked On Buffs. We're talking about all things Colorado, and there's a lot of things Colorado these days. Coach Prime is currently, I don't want to say under fire, but he's not under fire. They lost two quarterback commits to the portal, and they've kind of, let's just put it this way. They lost all three of their 2025 commits, which, I mean, big deal, no deal. I would say it's in between. I think it sucks to lose a quarterback of the quality of Antoine Hill because he's a four-star quarterback that was ranked amongst the best in the country. But obviously, it's always difficult to keep players committed for that long. But for departing players after the game against Utah, he said, "God bless them. I met with a few players this past week. We hope they play or they plan on staying. And some guys, if they want to go, God bless them. We want the best for them." Obviously, the transfer portal opens December 4th. A lot of guys are entering already or announcing their intentions to enter. The only guys that are technically up for grabs right now are the graduate transfers. So all the Ivy League transfers and stuff, those guys they're already starting, while undergraduates and stuff like that will open or will have their opportunity December 4th. But God bless them. And I think here's the problem with Coach Prime strategy right now. And I think it's not really a problem, I guess. It's only a problem if you make it a problem. But this is his strategy, and it's pretty clear. I think a lot of people are expecting him to go back into the transfer portal, and I think that's correct. I don't think he's going to be able to kick out all of these players or get rid of all these players that struggled this past year because there's no incentive for them to leave. They either can stay and try to work their way into the lineup, or most of these guys, if they didn't graduate, they can't transfer and be eligible unless they get a waiver, which, as we know, with the Tyler Brown situation, is unlikely. There's no point in them leaving. There's really not. And so for Coach Prime to kind of be nonchalant about it, I think he's kind of implying or maybe hoping that some more guys leave so he can bring in more players. But the transfer portal is going to be big for Colorado. I think recruiting wise in 2024, they've kind of swung and missed for the most part. They've brought in good skill players. They brought in a 4-star out of Georgia not too long ago. But the problem will never be skill players for Deion Sanders in Colorado. The problem will never, ever be like Cameron McKell or Cameron. I think it's Cameron. McKell, 79th overall player in the country, 6'1", 180. This is what clocked one of the fastest 40-yard dash times of the 2023 Combine. Is a three-time state qualifier in the 100-meter dash. He's super fast. He's played quarterback, wide receiver, running back, and also has played defensive back. So he could play all over the field, which is great. They have Aaron Butler, who's basically the same type of player, but that's not the problem for Colorado. The problem was not, I didn't watch a single Colorado game and go, wow, they could really use a wide receiver right now, or they could really use a corner. Maybe they could use one corner to kind of help out Travis Hunter, but the biggest problem is the trenches. And so I think this messaging of like, God bless them, one, I think it's him showing that he has no ill will towards anybody leaving, but I also think that it's a little wishful thinking. Maybe he wants guys to leave or certain guys to leave so that way he could try to bring in more linemen. I think the problem with using the portal for the line is, are you going to have quality guys come in, or are you just going to get guys that started at Group of 5 or FCF schools and trying to adapt to the Power 5 level again? Because the Big 12, it's interesting. I would say talent level, the Big 12 is probably the worst Power 4 conference next year. I would go SEC, Big 10, All right, well, yeah, we'll go SEC, Big Ten, ACC, because they have Florida State, Clemson, who's trending back up, and then the Big 12 has Utah and Arizona, and the rest of the teams, like Colorado, are all struggling. And Kansas State, Kansas-ish. So I would say the ACC is going to be more competitive. The Big 12 is going to have a lot more bad teams, I would say, but regardless, if you think the ACC or the Big 12 is better, the Big 12 is very physical. It's going to be a physical conference. I think it's a different style of football. Iowa State always has really good players in the trenches. TCU is working on building up their trenches. Whether they're doing a good job or not, discussion for a different day. Let's see who else is out there. Like Kansas State, notorious for running the ball. Kansas, physical team. So Colorado needs to get better in the trenches. Otherwise, they're going to struggle in the future. And so Coach Prime's message, while I think it's a little, some people are seen as condescending, I think it's him genuinely wishing no ill will on these people. And I think it's also him realizing that he needs to bring in a lot more linemen than he was probably hoping prior to the season's beginning or season's end, just because this Colorado team wins, I would say 7 games if they had an average offensive line. I don't think that's a crazy statement. They had the Stanford game won. They had the Arizona game won. Realistically, they had, let's see, maybe USC, if it was a little bit better in the first half, maybe they win, or there's games that were winnable. Let's just say that. And their offensive line played them out of it. Heck, they could have won the last game, but Deion Sanders was injured. Why? Because the offensive line can't block. So there's a lot of things that need to be changed and addressed for Colorado moving forward. But I don't think it's a bad strategy for Coach Prime to try to open up more spots. I do think it's an interesting one because it's kind of the one that he rocked with last year. But nonetheless, it is his team, his program, and we're just along for the ride. And we're going to see what exactly happens as the season goes on. But you guys comment below and and let me know if you guys think if this is all the right way to go about it. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on NFL or on FanDuel for the NFL. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options that includes spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. This episode of Locked on Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. I personally, that's how I got my job at the Pac-12 networks. I was a college student, graduated, needed an opportunity. I looked at what jobs were the perfect fit for me. I applied, talked to the hiring manager, worked out perfectly. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, and right now might not have the team or the team or resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. They even launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Like I said, I am your host, Kevin Borba. We have an interesting one to talk about, and this is an article that's been surfacing today mostly. Um, and it's about Deion Sanders. I think it's about Colorado and Deion Sanders and his recruiting struggles because obviously when you lose 3 commitments in 3 days and 4 in a week and a half or so, it's not great. I think there's a problem somewhere. I think there's obviously losing certain recruits like O'Neal. That was Sean Lewis's guy. He wanted to play for Sean Lewis, and he even said that the staff um, basically the staff changes were not helping his case to stay in Colorado. And so I think that's fair, but you lose a couple other recruits that have issues are questions of whether Coach Prime is going to be there. Is he going to be there when it comes time to be there in 2025? The biggest speculation around Colorado right now is where does Deion Sanders go after next year? His sons will no longer be on the team. Travis Hunter will probably be off to the NFL. Does he have ties to Colorado if his sons aren't there? Does he plan on coaching at Colorado? We'll see. That's a discussion for a different day. But what is standing out the most to me right now is this article written by The Athletic titled Deion Sanders. Sorry, I have to read on my phone because my laptop won't let me log into my account. It's this whole thing. You guys know how technology is. Deion Sanders' poor recruiting results, major issues for Colorado's build. So it talks about they lost Daniel O'Neal and Antoine Hill, the two quarterbacks. Obviously, O'Neal wanted to play for Sean Lewis. Hill, he has a lot of offers: Alabama, Georgia, Florida State, Notre Dame, whoever it may be. He's going to have a lot of interest elsewhere. I know a lot of you guys in the comments are saying he reclass or decided to not reclassify or couldn't reclassify. That doesn't matter. That literally does not matter because you know what? He could have stayed committed to Colorado and still not reclassified. So I don't know where people are coming up with this like idea that, oh, it's fine. He just decommitted because he couldn't reclassify. That's not how it works. He could still be committed. Like he is fully invested in going and looking at other programs. Even if he says Colorado is still in the mix, his recruitment's far from close. So I need people to realize that. Also, they lost a running back. I don't know how to say his last name or his name. It's Jamarius Wilder, running back out of 3-star running back. So this is what the article is talking about. It says Sanders could theoretically flip a 5-star prospect in December, like he did with Cormani or Travis Hunter. But it seems unreasonable to think that Colorado is going to go on a flipping spree and somehow wind up with a top 30 class, which their class currently ranks, I think it's the 60th class in the country. Let's see. Because it's true. He would need quite a few guys to flip. He would need to land Jordan Seaton, the 5-star. They're ranked 65th in the country. So they would need quite the spree. And then he said, this class is almost finished, and it's nothing like what you'd expect from Sanders. There's no questioning Sanders' star power or the way he could light up an audience. He's special. But that was the hype when it comes to his recruiting and stuff. It was the hype. It was the allure. It was like, Deion Sanders is here. It's going to be so cool. But what about the actual construction of the program? That takes labor, elbow grease, and good old-fashioned hard work recruiting on the trail. He questions, does Deion Sanders go to visit other places? Like, does he get on the road and go to high school games? Because I know a lot of coaches that do. Pretty much every coach around the country is on the sidelines at games, or they have coaches on the games. But this is the overall part that stood out to me. When was the last time you saw a picture of Sanders at a high school or doing an in-home visit or making a public appearance that isn't an Aflac commercial? Does he even get on planes to recruit high school athletes? Does he leave Boulder at all for recruiting purposes? One thing is for sure, Sanders doesn't recruit traditionally. He's not a traditional coach, so it stands to reason he approaches things differently. But is he going to travel across the country to visit 5-star tackle Jordan Seaton of IMG, perhaps the most important player in the class? He also said it could be his health, but obviously he goes to games every weekend, so he flies. Maybe he can't fly as much, but still something to look out for. Also, Sanders has some pretty serious issues with his foot, and that may be limiting what he's able to do physically. Eventually, though, Sanders is going to have to stop being a celebrity and start being a Power 5 football coach. And I think that sentiment right there is something that a lot of people are looking at when it comes to Deion Sanders in Colorado. Is he hoping or planning that his appeal for being Coach Prime and having Warren Sapp on staff and having NFL Hall of Famers on staff, is he hoping that that's going to have to take away the work of like, I'm going to go to Lubbock, Texas, because there's a really good 4-star tight end, and I'm going to sit at home with his parents and talk to his parents about what I bring to this program? Or is he just like, I'm Deion Sanders. If they want to come, they'll come to me. And if that's his strategy, it's an interesting one because that's not always how it works. You know, Kirby Smart's out there in the trenches. Dabo Sweeney's out there in the trenches. Jim Harbaugh out there in the trenches. And all these coaches obviously have had success at the highest level. And he wants to build this program to that level. So it's interesting that people are questioning if he's just trying to use a star power to kind of take out the hard work. And I don't think Coach Prime has ever shied away from hard work, but I do think that he may need to adjust his strategy. But Colorado's next month or so is going to be huge for this next season. If they miss out on offensive linemen, you could already chalk up a sub 500 season for them next year. Because none of the offensive linemen that played this year proved or showed any sign of improvement. They have one lineman in their class right now from the JUCO level, which is fine, but is he going to be ready to start? Who knows? And then obviously high school guys aren't always ready to start right away. But where's the development? And plus, the biggest issue for Coach Prime right now is there's already people talking about who's going to be his next offense line coach. So basically, the consensus is that Sean Lewis is out, Tim Boyle's out, Tim O'Boyle, sorry, and who's going to be out or who's going to be in? Like, players don't want to commit if they don't know who's there, and so there's just a lot of uncertainty around Colorado right now. And I think Coach Prime has a lot of issues to iron out before we kind of get to saying that this isn't time to panic. I would say I would put the panic meter at like a 7, because the staffing questions are big, the lineman issues are big, the overall strategy is in question, and it's kind of like what is going on, like what is going to happen, and I guess we'll find out. This episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season. And now you can play during basketball season 2. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. With basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at 10.5 combo of 3 points made plus receptions. PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy, so your entry stays safe even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. To conclude this episode, I feel like everyone needs to take a chill pill when it comes to Colorado. Did I just put the panic meter at a 7? Yes. When is it truly time to panic, though, is if Colorado doesn't get transfers and doesn't recruit. And until we see that, I'm going to have to pump the brakes on the panic meter. Now, I think there's room to be concerned for how the season finished. Whenever your coach is questioning your team's identity in week 12, not great. Whenever your coach is questioning your team's love for football, when was the Stanford game? Like week 9, 10, around there, midway through the season, not great. I think it was week 6, actually. I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter what week it is. It was midway to over midway through the season. That's not great either. And it's like, what went wrong? Is there a locker room problem? Did these guys from all programs all over the country have baggage? They were supposed to be Louis bags, right? Did they each have baggage that kind of made it hard to build that culture? That's where I'd be concerned. I'm not concerned about Colorado winning 4 games. They were projected to win 3.5. They exceeded expectations. They show that they're going in the right direction in some ways, but I think there's room for concern. For the full-fledged panic button, I would hold off on pressing that. I think we should give him time to assemble staff. We should give him time to go through this portal and recruiting class. If those don't work, then I would be like, it's time to be concerned. Is he actually bought into coaching at Colorado? Is he bought into building this program up? Or was he just thinking that it would be easy like it was at Jackson State for him, where he kind of just got the most talented rosters and just blew everybody out? I don't know. But I would say let's chill. Everybody relax. I think there's room for concern, but I would say for the most part, let's just relax and give Coach Prime his time. But either way, I do see why people are concerned. I, too, have my concerns, but I'm not going full-fledged panic mode. Yesterday's episode was it time to panic about Danny O'Neal? And I said no. A lot of people just look at my titles, which, I mean, thanks. I appreciate the engagement, but you got to watch the videos to make sure what I say, because obviously it sucks to lose 4 recruits in a month. A lot of people are, but and I just want to talk about this too, and this is going to be a side tangent, but long story short, don't panic yet. You could be ready to panic, but don't panic yet. People are comparing the exodus from Colorado right now to Alabama, to Georgia, to Texas, whoever, because are those programs losing recruits? Yeah. But until Deion Sanders has a roster full of 4 and 5-star players where 5 stars are actively sitting the bench because there's too many good players ahead of them, you cannot compare the programs. That is comparing apples to broccoli. That is comparing baseball to algebra 2. Like, that has nothing to do with it. Are programs losing players? Yes. Can some of these programs afford to lose players more than others? Yes. And that's why it does not matter. We already know, if Georgia loses 5 players today, they're going to add 6 5-stars tomorrow, or 6 really good 4-stars tomorrow. Coach Prime has not gotten Colorado to that state yet, has not gotten Colorado to that point where they can lose a lot of guys and still be okay. He has to continue to build this program up so that way they could get to that point where it's like, we have guys lined up. And I think the notion that Colorado had guys lined up, I think it was true at one point, but now they need to see results. Now they need to see effort, and it's gonna be interesting to see what goes along as we move along. But December 4th, transfer portal day opens. December 20th, early signing day. So have those dates circled. Colorado football is about to go crazy. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs, because I'm going to have you guys updated, keep you guys updated every step of the way. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.